Good morning, everybody, and welcome to RJ Sandifer Living with Purpose, where we don't just talk about living with purpose, we actually live with purpose. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about my life story. I know a lot of you have probably heard portions of it, but I'm going to try to give more detail. And I'm actually going on memory, so if I forget something or whatever, you know, that's okay. I mean, we get older and we may forget things, but I recently had a birthday. I'm 47 years old, so, I'm feeling great. So anyway, 47 years ago, May 30th, 1979, I was born in an Orlando hospital. It was Orange Memorial Hospital in Orlando. That's where I was born. And I was a premature baby. I was a preemie. And I weighed 1 pound, 5 ounces, 11 inches. I was considered the smallest baby in the United States at that time because up until that time, a baby born at that weight did not have a chance of surviving. In fact, when I was born, they only gave me a 2, not 10, 2% chance. TWO. 2% chance of surviving. Think about that. A baby is born in 1979. He's only 1 pound, 5 ounces, 11 inches. And the doctor comes to the parents and says, "I'm sorry, but I only give your baby a 2% chance to make it out of this hospital alive." That's what happened. And then, about 3 weeks after I was born, they came in and said, "Mr. and Mrs. Sandifer, we're sorry to inform you, but your son is completely blind. No light perception, nothing." And back then, you have to understand, we didn't have all the accessibility things that we have today. We didn't have the Americans with Disabilities Act. We didn't have all of the resources that we have today back then. Needless to say, my parents didn't. And my situation was so bad that the doctor told my mom, and I quote, "You can just pull the plug and allow him to go in peace. Allow him to die. He only has a 2% chance. He's blind. He may even be developmentally challenged." My mom looked at that doctor, and these are her words. This is what she literally told me when I was in high school. I looked at the doctor, and I told the doctor, "I believe in a God that answers prayer." My son is not going to die. He's going to live. That's what my mom said. That's what my dad believed. So basically, then they tried to say, "Well, we're not going to let you take him home until he reaches 4 pounds. According to my mom, I reached 4 pounds within 4 months, and they brought me home. not only was I blind, I was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. Although it's minor, it's not like major in terms of me being in a wheelchair or anything like that. But I was diagnosed with that. I was diagnosed with asthma. So I already had a lot of stuff stacked up against me. But you know what? I fought through it. I fought through it. And that's the thing. No matter what you're being told, if you believe different and you know what you're capable of, stand on what you know about yourself. Don't listen to somebody give you negative stuff and be like, oh, it's never gonna get better, it's never gonna. Because that kind of thinking stalls you. It keeps you from reaching your purpose. That's what happens. Now, granted, there are some situations where things happen that are beyond our control, and we have to trust God. And that's what my mom did here. Granted, there are those that may have cancer and they end up passing away. I don't understand why that happens, but God does. But anyway, back to this. So, the next step was kindergarten. And I was about 5 years old, 5 or 6 years old. And my mom went down to the school and walked in the classroom and saw me sitting in a corner playing with toys. And this is in the early 1980s. And you got to remember, we didn't have the Americans with Disabilities Act back then. So my mom walked up to the teacher's desk and asked the teacher, why isn't my son learning with the other students? And the teacher's response, Mrs. Sandfer, I really don't know how to teach a blind child.
Low battery. Battery saver is on 20% battery left.
You know what my mom did? That next year, she put me in a class, in a new kindergarten class because they held me back. And this time I had a proactive kindergarten teacher. And she would make the students walk up and sign their name every single morning. And I remember the first time I walked in her class, she said, RJ, come up and sign your name. And I said, well, I can't see. And she said, you're going to learn just like the other students. So this teacher literally took my hand and put the pen in my hand and showed me how to sign RJ. The shape of the letters and everything. And this woman had never taught a blind child before. And by the end of that year, I was walking into that classroom signing my name. Because she took the time. And then I went into the first grade. I had a first grade teacher who did the same exact thing. She didn't let me make excuses. I had to do my work just like the other students. Then I attended the Florida School for the Deaf and Blind from 2nd grade to 4th grade. And then I came back to the public school system in 4th grade. And they wanted to put me in special ed. They wanted to put me in special education classes because they didn't know where to put me. And my Braille instructor said, in no uncertain terms, that's BS. We're not doing that. So she fought to have me mainstreamed in a regular classroom. She said the Americans with Disabilities passed last year. It passed in 1990, and we're going to follow it. And so I was put in a regular classroom with regular students. And I went from 4th grade to 12th grade. Regular middle school, regular high school, and everything. No special ed. In fact, I would get up every morning and I would walk to the bus stop using my cane. And my dad would say, RJ, you're going to practice that route from this house to that bus stop because you're going to do this. You're going to do it so in case if mom and me aren't here, you can get to the bus on your own. And that's what happened. And I got to where I could walk to that bus stop using my cane on my own. See, it's the little things. You know, if you can do the little things in life and you master those, then you get to the bigger and bigger stuff. And then I remember high school. I remember one particular day I was in the 11th grade and I had a hard day at school. It was a very difficult day at school. I had a lot of class work and just our teachers were piling it on us, just piling it on. Because it was getting near testing time. It was getting near final exams. Or what we call them, semester exam. We called them semester exams at our high school. And we had a lot of different stuff to study and everything like that. So I'd walked in the house. I was bombed out this particular day. And I went to my room. I put down my backpack and I was just sitting on my bed. And my mom walked in the room and shut the door. And she said, RJ, how was school today? And I just went, just let out a breath just like that. And she could tell something was bothering me. And she said, you can talk to me. You can tell me what's happening. I'll listen. And see, that's the thing, guys. When you have a parent that actually listens to you and actively, actively listens and not just says that they care, but actually shows it, that's what a child needs. And Mom put her hand on my shoulder. I'll never forget it. And she said, "What's wrong?" Because she knew something was wrong. I said, "Why does it feel like I have to prove everything to everybody?" And she said, "You know what? I hate to tell you this, but I love you and I want you to know that your dad and I love you and we support you. We know what you're capable of. But you're always going to have naysayers in your life that are going to tell you, oh, you can't do that because you can't see. You can't do that because you're blind. And you're going to have to prove them wrong." And I understand what Mom meant. See, a lot of times we get this thing of, oh, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. But in a way, without saying it out loud, when a blind person or when any person does something with a disability, when anyone with a disability does something that people say that can't be done, you know what usually happens? They're like, "Wow, how did they do it? How did they do it?" But you know what? I don't see it as proving people wrong. I used to. Oh, I'm going to prove that person wrong. I'm going to prove that person wrong. I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to prove her wrong. You know what? At 47, you know how I see it? Just another challenge to face. Just another challenge to overcome with God's help. That's all it is. Just another challenge. And then I graduated high school. And my senior year was very active. I mean, we had the bonfire, we had the homecoming game, we had all that stuff. Typical senior stuff. And then it was the week of graduation. And everybody was, they were all happy and everything, and we had rehearsals and everything like that. And my father had been diagnosed with bladder cancer at that time. And my mom had told my teachers about it and everything, and one of them called and said that they had my dad's seating arrangement near the door in case we had to leave the ceremony. And that's all my dad wanted. My dad wanted to see me graduate high school. And he was so proud. I remember him putting his hand on my shoulder and saying, "I'm proud of you, son." And unfortunately, my dad's condition worsened when I started college. I graduated in 99, and then in 2000, on May 21st, my dad passed away. He never got to see me graduate college. And that was his dream. He wanted to see me graduate college. He got to see me start college. But he had wanted to see me graduate. So I graduated with my AA degree in 2001, and then I attended Florida Atlantic University. Now, all throughout my educational career, I had been used to I had been used to having everything either recorded for me or transcribed into Braille. But then when I started university, they told me that Braille was obsolete, which was a big fat lie. But I adapted. And see, that's the thing. If you don't know how to adapt to certain situations, you're going to be stuck. So I had to adapt. I had to learn how to use a scanner to scan my books, to scan my notes. And it had a talking program on the computer that would read everything. Now we don't have to use those. We can just use our phones to scan whatever we're looking for or whatever we're reading. And so I graduated with a criminology and criminal justice degree in 2004. Now, before I went into criminal justice, I had went into social work. And that's where I took that class on child welfare. And I learned a lot about the child welfare system by actually shadowing a caseworker with the Florida Department of Children and Families. And the stuff that they face, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to call DCF on this person, or I'm going to call DCF on that person. A lot of people don't realize when you call that hotline, especially here in Florida, when you call that hotline, they take a voice print of your voice and they keep it on file for 5 years. And if you have a history of calling them and having what you tell these people come back as a false report, they can charge you with a third-degree felony and a $5,000 fine. Now, that's in Florida. And that's the first thing we learned in the child welfare class. Is false reporting is considered a crime in the state of Florida. So anyway, I changed my major. I went into criminology and criminal justice. Pardon me. Graduated in 2004. And then I attended a seminary online. It was a distance learning seminary. And I went for a Master of Theology and a doctorate in theology. And I really enjoyed it. It was fun. It was really fun. I really enjoyed that time. I was licensed to preach in 2005. And I got to preach in many different churches as a supply minister. And I did that until 2017. And then in 2018, I became a Roman Catholic. And I have never looked back since. So, I think the thing I want you to take away from my story is this. It doesn't matter what you're going through in your life. It doesn't matter what you're going through. It doesn't matter the bad you're going through. Keep on course. Stay the course. Don't stray. Don't stray away from what you know. I tell you what, even here on YouTube, I have had people in the past tell me, "Oh, RJ, YouTube is a visual platform. You'll never make it. You will never make it. You are blind, and YouTube's very visual, and you're not going to make it." I've actually had people tell me that before. But I don't listen to that. Because I know who I am. I know I have a story. And my story is being lived out in front of you all. And that's what's going to matter. And yeah, I have this Chromebook right here. And now I also have my new iPhone. And I have people that are willing to help me. So, if I get something wrong, or if I do something wrong, or whatever, as far as editing or whatever goes, you know what? Even if I didn't edit my videos, I believe y'all would still listen. Because you know what? I would rather listen to a video like what I'm doing here rather than listening to a heavily edited, scripted video any day of the week. I would rather listen to somebody talk from the heart than read from a script. Because I believe that's what YouTube is looking for. They're looking for authentic stories. And look at where I'm headed. Look at all the things that has happened to me throughout my life. Now, I know a lot of people are not religious, and I understand that. But, I mean, look at what is going on. A blind guy from a small town starts participating in Special Olympics. He ends up singing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, performing the national anthem at their training camp. He ends up going to the Lions Club International Convention. I mean, all of these things. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you like this video, please like and comment and subscribe and turn on the bell for all notifications and share the video with a friend. Because if my story can help one person, then I've done my job. If it helps 50 people, then I've done my job. Thank you for watching. God bless.